And we have our next session now. We invite Anna on the stage with me as well. And Nefi, if you could invite to the virtual stage together to join Melissa. We have Christian and we have Nadir. Hi, everyone. We see all your smiling faces. And we're a room full of people here. So as you all know, we are all, I think, a bit excited and a bit nervous about the future, right? Every day we're hearing, I don't know, in all the episodes about AI, about what can we upskill, what can we do to make sure robots don't take our jobs. In the Mckinsey study, we've read that 400 million jobs potentially can be replaced by digitization. On the same research report, they said that 13.7 trillion growth will be seen in the same number of years. So we're excited, what we can do to future-proof our career, and that's the main discussion topic today. So I'm going just to briefly introduce also our panelists today from all different parts of the world, and also with very various backgrounds from the education sector, from corporates as well. As you know, my name is Carolina, and here on stage with me, I have Anna. So Anna has been with SEB now for various leadership roles and now heading HR in Germany as well. And you juggle different responsibilities and you also look into upskilling to juggle different things. So maybe I'll let you introduce yourself very quickly and then I'll introduce the rest of the speakers as well.
Thank you. Yes, I was delighted to see that Sweden is rather well represented, or Scandinavia also, here both on site and on the digital, and I am also a Swede. I moved down 2007 to Germany and thought that I would stay 2-3 years, but I like it so much, so I'm still here. What I was really almost negative for me when regarding my career is that I did something that I never thought I would do. I'm in the same company for so many years. So that was almost embarrassing to me when I was younger. All of my friends, after 3 years, they change, and I was in the same firm. So I have a little bit another career than many of the people who have been presenting today. And also, I'm a mother of 3. So also on the private side, I have a lot of things keeping me busy. And as you said, with upskilling, digitization, sustainability, those are things that are really keeping SEB very much on their toes now to see that we actually future-proof our employees as well.
Thank you, Anna. It was great to have you here, and thanks for juggling one more thing on your plate by being here as well. And talking about upskilling, I would like to also introduce you to our 2 online panelists. We have as well Christian. Christian is smiling because he also juggles different things as a father of 3. And he has this wonderful project that I'm a huge fan of. Who has heard of Tomorrow University here? Christian, you have a few more people you need to market to then. And he's joining us. Actually, you're still in Frankfurt, aren't you? It's just
No, I'm today in Berlin.
Okay, so you're back in Berlin. So Christian is based in Berlin. He has a mission to change the future of education with his startup. But Christian, you have done this quite a lot. He was also the previous CEO, founder of multiple companies, a health tech startup I've read, as well as he was a CTO of N26. You created an app for World Bank as well. So you've been very busy throughout your careers. So I'll let you also introduce how do you manage all that, and we take the questions forward after. Mm-hmm.
Thank you very much for the invite, and it's a pleasure to be here. I was listening already to speakers before. It was really great actually to listen so far. And also learn a lot myself. Yeah. As you mentioned, my background is really in building digital products. But I also have 3 kids, and they motivated me and showed me also a path which is really for me important in the future. And thinking about the future, what it led to is eventually to that we built Tomorrow University, which is a university designed for the 21st century. Our mission is to educate and empower the change makers of tomorrow. And we fundamentally believe that the education system needs to change. We talked about this. I think it's not anymore so much about just learning things by heart, but it's really about becoming more competent, building up those skills and really be feeling confident. I have so many people in that vision calls. They say, hey, one of the key things I want to feel confident, but how can you do that? And I'm looking forward to talk about this because there's so much moving parts actually in this world. But it's not just about the skills. The other part, what is also tomorrow is also a community. It's a community of change makers, of shapers, of people from around the world, pretty much from Singapore to Austria, to Germany, but also New Zealand and the US actually, where we together actually tackle those problems, exchange, learn together, grow together. And what tomorrow stands for is, and we always talk about purpose, but it's really important that we actually work on our own missions. And for us, this is going into the direction of sustainability. And we talk about climate leadership, about circular economy, but we also talk about technology and how can technology help us, and also about business as a third part. So those are the three areas where we provide really education and the community actually to thrive.
Thank you, Christian. We have, I think, a lot of questions for you. With one of our moderators, we said we wish we could ask 1,000 questions in this panel to all our panelists today. But we'll move on now to Nadir to also introduce yourself. But I know Nadir already, again, 20 years. I know quite a few people here for a long time. Nadir and I took this crazy step to join a university that was never before known. It's called the Singapore Management University. For those who might know Singapore, might know it. It's grown quite a bit. And Nadir is calling all the way from Kazakhstan today. And he is the Chief Experience Officer for the Human Capital Leadership Institute. And he is also a founder. So Nadir, you have different portfolios. You're a founder also at tech companies that you run alongside. So perhaps you could say a few words to introduce yourself. I like your backdrop as well. That reminds me.
Well, thank you very much. I wish I could show you the Kazakhstan backdrop. It's absolutely stunning over here. Beautiful mountains, and well, I guess in Germany you see that as well, but coming from Singapore, it's not normal for me. I hope the energy in the room is good. It's so good to see so many people here today. I'll tell you a little bit about myself, and then maybe that sets the context for the questions and answers that we can have later on. I work for the Human Capital Leadership Institute. Our whole mission is to develop leaders and leadership in Asia. And we do this because we believe there's a gap in the market for practices and models on developing people to understand the models of learning leadership or practicing leadership in this part of the world. My job entails meeting with hundreds of business leaders and HR leaders. And so what I can share with you today is not just some of the thoughts that I have, but some of the thoughts of the business and HR leaders in this part of the world, what they're thinking, what their challenges are, and how they look at the future and what kind of trends they see coming up. So I'm excited. Thank you so much to the organizing team of At Ahead. Thank you, Carolina, for inviting me here. And I look forward to the panel coming up.
Thank you so much. Now I move the mic over to my business and crime, Melissa. And Melissa, I think you met Nadir coincidentally. The world is really small. So you met recently also at a HR conference, isn't it? So Melissa.
Well, I have seen him on the stage, so I haven't actually met him. I met him in person, but Nadir has not met me. I suppose you could say it that way. But I'm really excited to have him here and hopefully get to meet face to face sometime, Nadir. And welcome as well, Anna and Christian. I think, Nadir, you have set up what the first question that we'd like to ask this panel, which is around how do you see the future of work evolving in the next 5 to 10 years? And what's exciting for you? The question is for all our panel participants, but Nadir, if you don't mind answering it first, and then we can move on to Christian.
Sure. The future of work is going to result in quite a dramatic shift in what we do today. If you look at the construct of a regular workplace, most of us are familiar with the 9 to 5, Monday to Friday sort of work design. And we take that as the norm. We take that as pretty much this is it and there's nothing more. But if I would remind everyone here that this construct of a workplace, 9 to 5, Monday to Friday, it was created at a time when there were no women or very few women in the workforce. Now remember that when this was created, it was men who were in the workplace. deciding the rules of how business was to be conducted. Now you fast forward 100 years on and you realize that this does not work. In today's world, there are many more women out there in the workforce. There are many more people who are of different backgrounds and different abilities, and the workplace today has to catch up to allow it to be a lot more inclusive of people who are caregivers, people who have other responsibilities outside of work, people who are less able and cannot travel or commute to the office. The workplace construct today of 9 to 5, Monday to Friday, that's going to go. And we need to be prepared for it. We need to drive that change. That's the first thought I want to leave with everyone. And the second thought, before I pass it to the panel, the second thought is that we need to control technology before the technology controls us. Remember that. We have to make sure we're adept at using the tools of technology. We're adept at using generative AI. We're adept at getting familiar. We don't have to be a programmer, a designer, a developer. We don't have to get into the nitty-gritty today. But what we need to do is have that understanding of how technology works. Because there was someone famous who said it, I think Elon Musk, who said, humans will not be replaced by AI, but humans will be replaced by humans who use AI. And that's going to have to be us. We got to start using AI to get ahead of the curve. So these are two thoughts I wanted to share. Number one, workplace design is going to change completely. Number two, we got to take control of our technology.
Thank you, Nadir. Christian?
I love this. I would double down and agree on those both aspects actually, and this both are really nice concepts. And I think also the future has a lot of opportunity in that regard actually for us, because these are good things. It's good that we work more flexible. It's good that the work can now be more inclusive. And by the way, I think it needs to be. We ourselves, as Tomorrow University, we are also a remote organization where all our team members come from across the different countries, not just from Europe, but actually also from Asia, for example. And it needs to be this kind of more inclusive setting. And I think it's also one of the best times to come is actually because the tools become more powerful. With AI, you can actually use them actually to do things which maybe you're not an expert in, but they help you for you to learn more effective new skills. But I think with all this freedom, there comes also this kind of, I would say, burden, pressure, competition. Yeah. And if you open Instagram, you see all the other people having so much success. Yeah. And I think this is like sometimes really like, oh my God, everybody else has success. And I think this is what I would like to address here as well. It's not just about all the things we can do, but it's also about resilience, building up self-leadership, building up capabilities and willingness to learn, deal with stress, deal with all the things, learn to say no. And I think this is one of the things which our students, when they join Tomorrow University, is really, really important for them. It's actually about self-leadership, about being and feeling confident in making those decisions, being clear about what they want. That's the reason why we, for example, every student goes through mission identification, one of our challenges. You can also sign up to that on our website. They are really about getting this kind of clarity, what you really want to change. And this is the important part, because when you can do so much, I think it's also important to have your own purpose. And what I believe maybe is now even more possible, but I think also more important is actually that you not just do a job only for the money, but actually, I think this is what I see in the next 20 years is this combination of purpose and money. It's not one or the other. Yeah. And I think you can combine this. And this is when a lot of satisfaction actually comes. Yeah. Self-fulfillment. And I believe this is really important with all the changes ahead of us, that you actually work on your own purpose for your own purpose, and have a chance with of fulfilling not just life, but also job, and combine that. So that's my part. Maybe handing over to Anna.
Thank you, Christian. Anna, so what does the future work means for you for the next 5 to 10 years? And what is exciting also for you personally?
Yeah, I definitely think that the change that we went through with Corona kicked us so that we aren't as afraid of what is going to come, because it's going to be completely different. But I don't think it's going to be like Nadir said, that it's not going to where the computers won't take over. It's just going to be asking something else from us. And exactly what Christian said about purpose. And also the SEB launched a new purpose 2 years ago, or sort of relaunched it to say, what is the purpose we as a bank have? And that has to fit with what you do, with the purpose you as an individual are looking to find. What is your motivation? And that is something that is, with the soft skills, I was really glad to hear about emotional intelligence being on the agenda, because those are the things that are required much more from our whole employee and labor skill. So it's really going to be exciting to see how this life and work combination will be in 5 to 10 years, because it is truly changing. We're looking at it, the expectations are different from our clients. We're doing much more advisory, we're doing much more purpose-driven. We need to be able to communicate more and collaborate. These are all words we hear all around us all the time. So I'm not saying anything new, but at the same time, it's really cool what's coming. And we have a lot of opportunities for us personally, which we can take with us. At the same time, also, it requires very much from us personally. You can't do anything automized anymore. It's not just by the book. You always have to sort of think about what you're doing, being prepared to give your own assessment to it. So I think it's going to be exciting to see where we land.
Wonderful. I think we already see that happening today. We have, people joining us from different cities, different countries. They're not robots, you're still humans, our panelists. And then, being in the same room, feeling that you're part of the discussion as well. I love that. So with this fast-paced digitization, we need to run after the humans who knows technology, Nadia, as what you said. We need to look into our purpose as well. So how do we as people here who are looking into transitions, how do we get ready for that process? Transitions can be coming back to work after, taking a break, becoming parents, looking into also elderly parents who are with us. Transition can be looking at the next leadership roles. I think that is the most commonality here as well, or transitioning into a new country where, like myself, in the beginning, we didn't speak the language. So how do we then get ready for this process when we look at digitization as an additional component that stresses us out sometimes?
Definitely, that stresses me out as well. I have to be with SharePoint and Confluence and these clouds coming. I have to be a web designer at the same time as I have to know everything about taxation for the employees. So it's challenging, but exactly the point that don't be afraid. That's what's really important, that you engage and see that, yeah, in a couple of years, it's going to be actually not that difficult. We thought that what we do now a couple of years ago wasn't even possible from a technical point of view. So I think that's the preparedness to take the change is definitely something.
And how have you been preparing yourself?
I think it's always really important that you have a plan, so that you know that you can deviate from it. Because I've never had a plan that I followed, but I always have a plan first. And that's a good basis, I think.
Wonderful. I like that. Have a plan, try to reach for the moon and fall amongst the stars, so we're not so far away, right? And Nadia, you've worked with HCLI, the Human Capital Leadership Institute, as well as with the Singapore Global Networks as well. And you've trained thousands of people through the institution. So how do you advise people get ready? Maybe some concrete examples or personal examples if you'd like to share.
Sure. I think the first thing is it starts with your mind. You have to open your mind to be ready to experience something new. And how do you do that? It's easier said than done. You have to probably, from today, start trying to learn something brand new. Just get on the computer, go to YouTube, pick any topic, anything that, has always puzzled you, anything you're curious about, and just start learning about it, whatever that might be. That's the first thing, is to open your mind. Number two, pick courses that are relevant to the field of interest that you want to get into, because that sends a signal to employers that, you're probably interested in HR because you've just done a course on strategic HR management. So pick the right courses that are of interest to you and that you think would be of relevance to the employer that you're going to join. Number 3, play with ChatGPT, play with Gemini, play with AI. Trust me, it is very fun. Just go online to Gemini. It's only a small amount of money to pay for the extra version. I would strongly suggest it. And just ask it random questions every day. What's the population of Kazakhstan? What's the language they speak? Which is a better country, Germany or France? Just throw these questions into the machine and you'll find out that you're going to learn so much. And you know what? That ChatGPT could actually teach you a lot of things which you would probably not have guessed you could. So 3 concrete examples. Number 1, open your mind. And how you do that is just start learning something new online or elsewhere. Go for a class that is on gardening or something that you're not familiar with. Number 2, pick courses that are relevant to the job that you want to go to. And number 3, play with AI. Play with it a lot, because the more you're familiar with AI, trust me, the better your job. I'll give you concrete examples in my company of where AI is coming in so handy. Whenever we put up a LinkedIn post, all we do is we take the video in which we want. Let's say we have a video we want to summarize. We take a link of that video, we put it on Gemini, it summarizes the video and creates a LinkedIn post for us and puts the hashtags as well. I mean, that happens in a matter of seconds. I take it to another point. Like, let's say I want to do a business plan for my board of directors. I can just feed the information to the ChatGPT or Gemini, and it structures the entire business plan for me. Now, I'm not saying it's going to be perfect, but it's a great enough start. So these are things you should do, I think, from today. Just go on and start playing with AI.
I like that, like having fun with technology. So who here, with a show of hands or on the audience, put the emoticons, has done ChatGPT today? Today. Today, not every day. Okay, who has done ChatGPT yesterday? Okay, who has used it every day? Okay, I have a secret to share. My questions here came from ChatGPT.
That's amazing.
Yeah. Well, we modified it, we personalized it, but ChatGPT gave the first ideas. Melissa is laughing as well. Melissa, I move it back to you to ask the next questions as well.
I really love, thank you. And I thank you, Nadir. And I think what I really love and got out of this too is the fun, but just that growth mindset, right? Of just don't be afraid, just open your mind and just do something. And yeah, I love that. I do ask ChatGPT some pretty interesting questions too, Nadir. So thank you for that. Christian, I'm going to ask you ChatGPT modified question, which is really around just from your perspective as a leader in your organization, what has been the biggest challenge and opportunities in this digital transformation?
Maybe if I'm allowed, I would like to just come back to the last question, because I thought it's a really interesting one. We have a lot of students who are professionals actually, and they're women who are also maybe on a parental leave, or are wondering or quite afraid of now if there is this change happening, hey, I get kids now, but what does it mean for my job? What does it mean for my career? Or they are already have kids now. Can I get back to work? I'm a little bit scared. How will this feel actually? And this challenges. I think it's sometimes I feel it sounds so easy. Just go to ChatGPT and learn. And I experience personally this is not so easy. It is not so easy to do this by yourself. And I think this is where people, like-minded people, can come together and actually learn together and exchange. Because you can have this kind of scaffold, this kind of structure actually, which helps you not just to go for a big leap, but also go in small steps. And being challenged is really, really important. And I think having this growth mindset, you can learn anything. This is really also 100% true. But it doesn't come in easy for anybody of us, I believe. Also, it takes us often to go out of our comfort zone. And with Tomorrow, we're trying also to provide some kind of safe space for this. Now, obviously, I think we can also fail publicly, but it hurts more. Let's put it that way. So what you said, I think you can join courses. Is also a great way just to learn and build up this kind of, again, this confidence. Yeah, build up, have a pitch, have a presentation, have a chat about this. Yeah, have a discussion. Hear how others actually maybe also not perfect. Yeah. And yes, absolutely, use the tools and learn. I fully agree with this. But I'm just saying, having a space where you can do this together is so much more fun, so much easier, so much more motivating, especially because there is like I think we have a lot of mood swings. You know, there are sometimes we feel well and we can do a lot, but then there are those downs, and then it's exhausting, and that's great. And you have somebody to remind you, hey, how about let's continue together and help you actually going back on track. So I just want to highlight this. I think this is really important. Is you are not alone, and also yes, we can do so much more together. We are connected. We had in the last panel also a lot of discussion about networks and the developments of it. I think doing it together is really a great thing. So that's just for the last question. And now moving on for the next questions. Yeah, how do we transition? Sorry, I think Melissa, can you repeat the question?
Of course I can. And Christian, I just want to say it. I love that you alluded. You linked it to our last conversation as well about really making connections. And I love that. Yes, we can alone we can only do so much, but together there's just so much more possibilities in our world. So the question was, what as leader in your organization, what are the biggest challenges and maybe opportunity that you have in this digital transformation?
So one part, what transformation means, transformation is change. Yeah. And change often is not decided by us. There are things changing which are out of our control. Yeah. And this is sometimes what makes us or me, I think can be scary. Yeah. It's unclear because it's not clear where the route leads to. So I think what is really important for that is on the one hand side, really talking about it, learning about exchanging, and trying to understand. And this is where I think education is so really important. You're talking here about upskilling, and we have I think if I'm looking at skills, yeah, I think there are two types of skills to make it really short. One is like very simple prompt engineering, very concrete, or I'm now need to know how I can use Google Sheets, for example, and build up a spreadsheet in there. Very concrete skills which help me one step. But then there are also durable skills. Yeah, skills which are more than just for next step. Yeah, which is, for example, about impactful communication. We talked about self-leadership. We talked about maybe understanding technology, from technology literacy, building really a fundamental understanding of technology up. And there are more. And I think for this kind of when we're talking about the transition, the change, I think it's really also important not just to build up short skills, which now are relevant, but they are changing also quite fast. But think about what are your competences actually you want to grow. Yeah, what do you want to learn? Learn about sustainability, become literate with sustainability. What is actually circular economy? What does it mean? What does ESG reporting actually mean? How can I leverage it for my purpose actually? And this, what I think is also so important when it comes to this change and uncertainty. For me personally, it is about why I'm doing this. And the more you know, and coming back to this topic of purpose, the more you know why this is relevant, yeah, the more curious I can be. And curiosity will help to learn and really explore and engage. And I think this is, for me, one of the key parts is actually understanding why this is relevant, what can I do here? What do I want to do here? And the more you're clear, I think, on your purpose and how this matches maybe with your organization, the better the change will be, the easier it will be, the more you can influence and create and use it for yourself.
Thank you, Christian. I think all of you have in your journal that we earlier shared also. I think to find a purpose, Christian, I think sometimes it's very difficult, right? Like if we've not thought too much about it, what kind of impact we as individuals wants to give when it comes to supporting the people that we love or the communities we love. So feel free to use also the journal in this process, because there are some small little steps of questions. And I don't think we would find, the 100% answer for ourselves. It's a journey. So, but this is the way that we can look into it, becoming leaders ourselves as well. Many of us also taking on leadership responsibilities after returning to work. So this would be an interesting, I think, exercise we can take home and do after this. But Anna, back to you. So you are also a leader in your organization with SEB. You've moved on from previously leading teams in client relationships, also managing the client side, and then now moving on to leading teams, looking into responsibility of human resources. So internally, so externally focused, now internally. What are some challenges, opportunities you see as a leader when it comes to digitization?
Adding that. Yeah, okay, when it comes to digitization, exactly one thing always leads to the next. And if you then take the opportunity which that comes with is the flexibility which we've been into, that digitization is giving us. And therefore, we also have a need for other sort of roles and skills. And that's where the opportunity we looked at diversity, inclusion, also that we're sitting here and discussing the subject of also flexibly relaunching careers and part-timers as well. And that inclusion and diversity doesn't have to do only with what nationality you are or what religion or gender. It has to do with how you want to work as well. So the expectations that you have and the wishes you have are part of making you diverse to somebody else. And there the challenges, at least for me, if you then sort of my challenge as a leader now within human resources is exactly how do we reach these people? How do we meet up and connect? So yeah, that's one of the that's one of the reasons that we actually have gotten in touch is, of course, Swedish Bank. Equality is a really big subject. And there, it's not equality just how many managers are female or male. It's a question of, does your partner also support you? As we really positively heard, and my partner as well, he redirected. So yes, you need support and you need the society and your network in a private sense also, not only in the working sense, but both to support you, because you need this support to flexibly build up another structure in which you can land in. I can go on, but
No, it's interesting because you looked at the problem of digitizing, or not a problem, it's actually opportunity, isn't it? From the basics, right? You'd go back to the foundation, what kind of support structures, how do you leverage on it? How do you reach that talent pool here that's here looking at the career next steps as well? So thanks for sharing that. Mel, back to you.
Yeah, thank you. Well, I'd love to just hear a little bit, I think, Nadir, around, you work a lot with leaders, and you did mention that there is a gap in the market, especially in Asia. Like, I'd be curious just to hear a little bit more around that. Like, what exactly are the gaps, and how are we trying to narrow down those gaps?
When you say gaps, sorry, which gaps are you referring to in particular?
Oh, in leadership, and
Oh, in leadership.
and you spoke about, yes.
That's right. So what I meant earlier is that there is a gap in the market for companies like ours, for businesses like ours, to talk about leadership in an Asian context. Now, most executive education providers will talk to you about leadership in a very general way, which leans more heavily towards the Western models of leadership. And what we want to do is bring in the Asian side of this, because in Asia, it's a different nuance to running and leading teams. We have a much different way of thinking. And again, Asia is not a homogeneous place. It is extremely varied from country to country. Even within countries, it can be very different styles of leadership. And so what we are trying to fill in is really that gap in understanding how to lead in Asia. That's what we're trying to do.
Great. And if you tie that, Nadir, if I could just ask one more question, if you tie that back to our topic today and sort of facing those leadership challenges with the future of work, what is it that you impart on leaders and for them to be also ready for the future of work?
Well, there are three things that are on the mind of most of the business leaders and HR leaders I deal with, CEOs, CHROs. Three things are often top of mind. Number one, it's really about technology and digital transformation and how they can maximize the use of technology to really transform the business model. So that's number one, technology. Number two, that's really top of mind for many of them is sustainability, issues on climate change or ESG or sustainability, anything to do with the green transition, energy transition. These are very, very big because it's now becoming a lot more regulated where companies are being rewarded for showing more care for the environment. So like it or not, they're more interested now in doing better for the world. And so they're looking for people who are able to help them in this mission. The third thing that comes top of mind to these CEOs and CHROs, it's all about people. People matters. And within people matters, it's about diversity and equity. It's about how we can work remotely, how we can get more purpose-driven people in a company, how we can retain and attract talent. So people comes up quite heavily in these conversations I have. And you know, people who are looking to get into the workforce or want to switch companies or career transitions, they need to be, I would say, familiar with these three topics, because if this is what companies are trying to do better at, they're going to be looking at people who are able to fix these problems, people who know how to use technology, people who know how to manage and lead teams and bring in the right people, people who know about sustainability issues and how to make the world a better place. I think if you have a leg up on these things, definitely it puts you in an advantage over others.
Thank you. I love like how all our speakers are also very passionate about these three topics personally. So I think thanks for being the role model and leading the discussion and also inspiring the discussions of how we can be individually also involved and learn technology, have fun with it. Also look at the sustainability part where if you're not part of the discussion, you don't get money to fund your projects, unfortunately these days, right? So really, really interesting. Now to the audience, who wants to be involved in these three discussions? Do you have questions for our speakers? And then we can also involve the online audience as well. Anyone wants to ask something to Christian or to Nadir or to Anna? This is your chance.
While we wait, Carolina, maybe I share a very funny example of how I play with Copilot, right?
Actually, it's not a question. My name is Nadir. I work at Everything is Cabe as a senior manager e-learning. So I create learning paths for my employees. And we're talking about artificial intelligence, ChatGPT. And if you haven't had the opportunity to ask ChatGPT or prompt ChatGPT to create your learning plan, for example, this is a very good exercise. If you want to reach something, you have a position that you want to have in 2 years, you can ask this to ChatGPT. And as you said, maybe it's not the perfect plan, but it's a plan that you can deviate. But at least it's a very good start. It's very inspiring. If you haven't done this before, this is advice for me.
Thank you, Nadia. And anyone who has a questions from the audience, Mel, that you want to read out? Yeah. Or someone here?
We have no.
Yeah.
We have no questions as of now.
So someone from the floor then? Who has used put into ChatGPT learning plans? Have you tried? Anyone here? No? Not yet? Amin, I see you staring at me. How have you used ChatGPT so far? 1 second, you have to use the mic. So Amin runs a very fantastic organization called FIDI Frankfurt. So for those of you who are new in this country or city, you can come to him and he organizes after this the exciting fun dancing events. Or is that what it is about?
Hi everyone. Yeah, we are basically we are basically trying to decentralized events and experience discovery in Frankfurt. So this is the problem that we are trying to solve, because the city is very vibe, is very happening. So one organization, one people, two people, they are very, very, they're not enough to help people to find good things, cool events, nice events, what like is happening at the moment. So back to the discussion we had here, is very, very, you should have, as a foreigner, came here as an expat, lived in 5 countries, it's very, very difficult to build a network of people, at least in Germany and Frankfurt. And we are trying to make this easier for everyone. And GPT, yeah, I use it every second. Maybe it's like a GPT now talking, and we never know. Yeah, is a game changer, and I hope that we see more kind of MLs and these kind of AIs that we can use on our daily life.
Thanks for sharing, Amin. And great to hear about Fitzy. And also, I think some of us will probably join your events as well. Yeah. Anything else before I pass on to the online audience? Oh, Nafi, our IT manager for today, you have to come to the camera.
Well, it's not related to ChatGPT or AI, but you were talking a lot about leadership. Like, what's where do you where your leadership career began? Like, what do you ask yourself? Not ChatGPT, but yourselves. Like, what encouraged you, or what's the first step to upskill your career as a leader? Like, yeah, that main point, that first point for your career. Was it clear? Sorry.
So your question is, as a leader, what was the first main point that you do to upskill yourself? Yeah, in technology. Okay,
maybe
Go ahead, Christian. Yeah.
yeah. So leadership is not always the goal. Just to be honest here, it is sometimes not even a good role, to be honest. And if you're thinking about becoming a CEO, it is just where all the problems actually culminate to. So you have all the day just problems around you. So I'm not sure if I would recommend this by default. Yeah, but if you want to become a leader, and what this means for many people and for me as well, is actually having more influence and actually changing things. Yeah. So when you think about leadership, for me, it's about creating value. It's actually a lot about serving, yeah, and figuring out where can you help and contribute a big one. And this is, and I put actually into the chat an advertisement that say about the mission identification class, which is about also defining your purpose, defining your own mission and values, and then also how you can leverage this. Because I think it's often starts with this, yeah. Becoming a leader starts with actually knowing what you want to change, what you want to influence. And then once you know that, then you can think about what do you need actually for that path. But instead of just thinking it's just for the career, there's a mindset shift that thinks, hey, it's something what you want to influence and where you want to have an impact for. And in many roles, also in large corporates, you just have more influence sometimes in leadership roles. Yeah. So think about why is this so important? What can you contribute to this? And from this, you can derive what you want to make. What is the first step then? What is the learning? And just we talked a lot up here about networks, but I really think this kind of actually having the sessions with us, these discussions, this helps. Yeah, we have for example, our students have a female leadership circle. There are a lot of circles at Primerian University where they can exchange with each other and actually discussing these things. Yeah, so that you're really getting more clear yourself what works, what not, but also maybe ask for help sometimes. Yeah. Asking for help, by the way, is generally a very good thing.
Yeah. If I take away a little bit the technology part of that question, which was added, then I hear a dialogue which we have a lot in my company, and that's regarding what a career is. And there I also recommend to move a little bit away from career as a linear path, because exactly what Christian was getting to is something that leadership in terms of employee leadership is not something that is appropriate for every person. You can self-leadership it. You can be an expert leader. You can be a transformative leader. You can be, I call myself a spiral career. I'm in a manager position now with employees. I had 25 people before. Now I have 5. I mean, the team sizes differ, but it's not the most important for me, for my development, but different things that I learn new things. That's what inspires me in my career. So regarding, yes, of course, leadership is something really cool, but it's really a lot of personal problems as well and personal engagement. And even more, what is important, Nadir mentioned 3 things that are sort of on leaders' minds. The most present on all our managers' minds are the employees and how they can be motivated. What inspires them? So that's the absolute most important. And you should definitely always try it if you're interested. I think always, you never know. I didn't know that I was a good leader. I can actually say that because first, when you try it out, you understand what it actually entails.
Wonderful.
Yeah, I just wanted also to add, we talked about a lot about people, and I think the #1 skill also we need all is just to listen. I think to listen to everyone, what he has to say or she has to say. Unless we don't listen or ask for feedback, we just don't know. And I think this listening skills and emotional intelligence, what we Rachel today, conveyed during her workshop is a very important element of being able to then lead into the future and help people to involve and also represent their interests and reflect them. And I think the spirit of togetherness is something we all felt today as well. And I think we are in this together. So then listening to each other is an important one.
Like how you linked it to our forum's title called Lead Together, isn't it? So that's basically why we can be here to support each other as leaders and to grow in the process as well. I think now I see a few questions. Mel?
There are. Is it okay? Do we still have time to maybe have someone come off mute to ask a question?
Yeah. Are we okay with just...
Okay.
Yeah. Okay.
Right. We do have Jermaine who's asked to ask a question to the panel.
Yes, thank you. Thank you so much. It was great listening to the panelists. I did have a question around around taking my personal experience into consideration. I had worked previously and I had been a stay-home mom since moving countries for about 4 years. And I had that gap in my resume. And I found that after applying for many positions, I really had to take a step back in the positions that I wanted. So I knew I could no longer be a senior manager, that's for sure, having a bit of a break, but still keeping abreast, right? As Nadir had mentioned, with technology and what's out there. Now that I decided that I don't want to take a step back. I actually want to move forward from where I stopped. And I opened up my own company and I found myself in a position where I don't have a portfolio now. So I have a tech and finance recruitment company. And because I've been out of it for the last couple of years, I see myself as at such a disadvantage because of that. What do you guys think about having that gap, getting back in there? I mean, I know housewives and homemakers I would employ them any day of the week because I know they have the passion, the energy, they have the right attitude of wanting to get it done. But what is your advice to somebody like, people in my situation?
I think you mentioned Nadir, so I'm going to let Nadir start first. Yeah. And love the heart, Christian.
Sure. It's unfortunate that not enough employers are willing to look past the gap and look at what you've previously done and value that. It's unfortunate, but I think as the world becomes more inclusive, as the workplace becomes more inclusive, things like taking a gap will not be looked at negatively, but looked at favorably, because sometimes taking a pause and reflecting and not being in the thick of things, actually, when you come back better. So it's unfortunate that you were not able to get the same thing as where you came out. I mean, I can share with you that, as our other panelists had said, careers are not necessarily linear anymore. My career as well has not been a steady path up. I have had to go sideways. I've had to go down a little bit in order to go up in future. So I think maybe we all have to be able to adjust sometimes, and just if it is what it is, we just get on with it, and we try, and once we get our foot in the door, try and find a way back up faster than before. I guess it's not a perfect solution, but it is one solution, and one piece of advice that I might have. Just to give you an example, I know people who, after or during this gap time that they've got, because they're pregnant, they've got kids, they spend about 5 years at home. What they do in that time is not completely switch off. They start doing courses on topics that are of interest, and topics that they feel the employers would be interested. So, for example, my sister, she took up a lot of HR courses. She did an entire HR, an extra degree on top of her original degree, so that when she went back and started applying, they were like, wow, so now you got a bachelor's and a master's of HR or something. I mean, these are things that we could consider. Again, not perfect solutions. And I do hope that more employers become a lot more welcoming to the world out there. As I said at the beginning, we all need to drive that change. We need to reconstruct this workplace today to make it a lot more inclusive for the way it should be. Because nowadays, it's not about how many hours you put into the office, but what the outcome of that work is. That's the much more important thing, we have to focus on.
Thank you.
I think you said exactly some good points sort of to maybe bridge that, but what you're getting at is exactly the point. It's a societal thing. It's not something that only one firm does. And just as an example, it's not that uncommon in Sweden that you actually employ somebody who is pregnant with the knowledge that this is the best person for the job. That is unheard of as far as I know in Germany. So yeah, there is a hurdle also from a cultural and historic context, but still it's getting better, and there are employers who are prepared to, maybe not yet in Germany go that far, but yeah, we're getting there, and actually to see that it's justified, that your life comes in between is also something I often said. Every day we start with a plan, and then life comes in between. And also the children are a part that comes in between, because it's natural. Everybody has something that comes in between now and then. And also the employers are now in a situation which is rather nice, that they have to accept that. They're pushed to it because there is a need for people with the competence and the mindsets.
Thank you for sharing. I like the thread as well of how we need to normalize this process, because every one of us goes through, we all unfortunately have to grow older. We all have also aging parents, families. And how do we then make that conversation a normal one? And we will, and all are leaders in different organizations, all of us in this room. I have my 2 girls at the end, so they will become leaders in future as well. One of them is sleeping, unfortunately. And then, how can we then help, I think, as well, have this conversation going in a way where it does not also impact. But I think we're running out of time. Oksana? Yeah? Okay. So we have maybe a last quick one. Is that okay? Maybe last quick 2. Because Oksana, put your hand up first. Oh, no, you need the mic.
Thank you. I mean, just a statement to your statement, because the thing is, it's often just a woman topic, because if a man leave the company for a sabbatical, for example, for a year and a half, and get back, this is never an issue. just start a senior again. And if a woman leave the company for 1 and a year or however, how long, then she needs to get back. So I think this is a mind change what needs to happen in the general working world.
I'll keep my questions super short, and it's for anyone on the panel to respond. So I have a question on the Commission AI Act, right? The first ever legal framework on artificial intelligence. And everyone is concerned that regulating this space, right, will stifle innovation like ChatGPT, etc. So I just wanted to ask on the panel if do they see this as an imminent risk or any other risks that this would potentially pose? Because we're talking about all the wonders of ChatGPT, right?
Maybe it's okay if I start. I personally am a big fan of the AI Act to in general think about all the side effects of AI, because this is something which any innovation which is big has side effects, and there are risks involved. And what it does, it puts it into 4 levels, the AI Act, depending on the AI, how big that risk is, and then depending on that, you have different regulations. Yeah, so different it will be, for example, for security cameras, on people detection, as an example. Yeah, different ones in health and different ones in games. I think this is a very good separation. Nonetheless, in Germany or in Europe, we need to be also careful, I think, as well, that we don't regulate what we don't understand. And especially in AI, there's a lot yet to change, and we need to also figure it out. So I think it needs to be an incremental regulation approach, and not too early, too premature before we don't understand it. Yeah, it's the same with, I think, cars, for example. At the beginning, you could drive with cars pretty much, I think, crazy back then. They have no seat belts and a lot of other things. Yeah. But over time, we found out what is really meaningful. And I think the same thing needs to be true for AI. And AI is coming fast, I know, but nonetheless, I wouldn't do the regulation that fast. Yeah. And so I think this is my take on it. I'm happy about regulation. I think it's important, but not too fast before we don't understand actually the opportunities and the risks.
I like that. I think the whole conversation, and I see a thread there, right? It's about people, you know, like people makes decision, people makes regulations, people create opportunities. So we really have to play a part of how this discussion goes when it comes to the regulatory approach, when it comes to looking at how it can benefit us as individuals. So we could go on, but I think we need to let everyone go home, and some have to pick up the kids or to meet their partners for Friday evening for drinks or join Fizzy Frankfurt for the next event as well. So thank you so much for letting us pick your brains a little bit and hear your personal stories from online and also on-site. We have, I think, the few things that we took away. We need to have a growth mindset. We need to first start with our why. Brita's favorite phrase that I hear all the time, start with a why, from Simon Sinek. That's why we do what we do, and with Anna Head today as well. And then how do we then take that and move forward and normalize some discussion so that the company